So healthcare data ingestion isn't file transfer. It's a continuous process of validation, parsing, normalization, and governance. That's why the industry is moving to template-driven ingestion and common models like FHIR. So downstream systems always seek consistent, trusted data. Teams that scale, they treat ingestion like a product. Most organizations don't need another one-off integration. They need an ingestion framework, a repeatable, configurable system for bringing in clinical and claims data at scale. That's why we built HDI, Healthcare Data Ingestion.
Welcome to Shaping Healthcare, a podcast by CitiusTech. I'm your host, Laurel Rockle. Healthcare now generates nearly 30% of the world's data. Yet most organizations still struggle to turn that data into something that's consistent, reliable, and usable. Much of this challenge stems from the way that clinical and claims data moves across the healthcare ecosystem. Today, we are joined by Ravi Gupta, Senior Vice President at CitiusTech, to unpack why healthcare data is so difficult to work with and what really happens when organizations try to ingest, interpret, and standardize it. Ravi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
To start us off, could you elaborate on what it is about healthcare clinical data that inherently makes it so complex and difficult to standardize and manage across the ecosystem?
Yeah, quite right. So there is a simple way to say it. Healthcare data is standardized on paper and customized in practice. In the real world, it behaves like hundreds of different dialects of the same language. That's the heart of the complexity. There are three main drivers behind that: variety, variability, and context. First is the sheer variety of sources and formats. A payer or a medtech platform isn't dealing with one system. You get it from EHRs, labs, imaging platforms, HIEs, clearinghouses, and partners. And that data arrives in very different shapes. HL7 feeds, CCTA documents, FHIR APIs, X12 claims, flat files, and sometimes even scanned documents. Second, even so-called standards aren't uniform in practice. So when everyone says they're using the same standard, implementation vary a lot. One hospital's HL7 feed is not the same as another hospital's HL7 feed. Same segments, same message type, but different optional fields, different local codes, different habits. The same thing happens with CCTA. The sections may be common, but implementations differ very widely by EHRs and local configuration. Take a simple example: blood pressure. It might arrive as a free text or two separate observations as systolic and diastolic with standard line codes, or a single string like 120 by 80 mmHg. Now a human can interpret that instantly, but a system needs explicit rules to normalize it. Third, data quality and context. Real feeds have missing values, inconsistent units, local codes, duplicates, and conflicting information across, say, encounters. And unlike other industries, healthcare data is deeply contextual. A lab result isn't just a number. It's what's the test, what is the unit, what's the reference range, what is the specimen, when was it taken, in what encounter context. If you lose the context, you lose the meaning. And in healthcare, meaning matters more than format. And finally, there is drift. EHRs, they upgrade. Labs, they tweak formats. Companion guides, they change. Everything still looks like HL7, but pipeline breaks. So healthcare data ingestion isn't file transfer. It's a continuous process of validation, parsing, normalization, and governance. That's why the industry is moving to template-driven ingestion and common models like FHIR. So downstream systems always seek consistent, trusted data.
Thank you for breaking that down. When you do so and we realize where all these different data points are coming from and that they can all look different by not only the data itself, but where it's coming from, that makes a lot more sense as to why there might be challenges around that. With that in mind, what are some of the biggest challenges that organizations are facing when they are trying to ingest and harmonize and use all these different bits of clinical or claims data?
See, the hardest part is not getting the file in, it's getting a file that you can trust. A lot of the real challenges show up the moment you try to operationalize the data you have received. I usually bucket the challenges into four: normalization at scale, managing referential integrity for longitudinal view, onboarding, and operations. One major challenge is normalization at scale. Again, the same concept, different representations. HPA1C may come as numeric with LOINC or as text or via local code. If you don't validate and normalize at the door, you pay for it everywhere else. A second challenge is building a longitudinal view. Clinical data is encounter and document driven. Claims data is billing and episode driven. So to build a coherent member or a patient record, you need identity resolution, deduplication, and strong links across patient, provider, encounter, and coverage. That foundation is critical for quality, risk, and care management. The third challenge is onboarding and ongoing maintenance. Every new provider or partner feed often becomes a mini engineering project. Custom mappings, custom parsing logic, testing, support. In many organizations, onboarding takes weeks per source. And because feeds drift over time, those integrations are also fragile. Small changes break pipelines at the edges, trigger reprocessing and creating backlogs. Fourth, there is the operational and compliance layer. This is PHI. And there are SLAs. You need auditing, logging, alerting, and traceability. If you can't quickly see where something failed or from where bad data originated, you create regulatory and business risk. That's why teams that scale, they treat ingestion like a product. They standardize early, automate quality checks, and produce consistent outputs, ideally into an intermediate canonical model, so downstream teams aren't constantly reinventing integration work.
Ravi, given the growing pressure from regulators and partners and then these analytics teams to deliver usable data quickly and clean data too, what practical approaches can organizations use to simplify and accelerate or even automate this work?
Yeah. So the goal shouldn't be to solve interoperability in one massive program. The goal is to industrialize the messy parts of ingestion so that clean data flows faster and repeatedly. Four practical moves. First, shift data quality left. Put validation right at the ingestion edge. If a file is malformed or missing critical segments or any other problem, catch it early. Classify the error. Route it into a consistent remediation workflow. That prevents bad data from cascading downstream. Second, move from custom code to metadata and templates. Instead of writing a new parser for every feed, use mapper files, rules templates, reusable transformations. When something changes, you update configuration, not code. That's what really speeds up onboarding and reduces maintenance. Third, standardize into an intermediate canonical model, and then into FHIR or any standard of your choice. A layered approach works really well. Land raw data, pass into structured output, normalize into a trusted canonical layer, then produce FHIR resources or analytics ready tables. This decouples ingestion from consumption and supports multiple use cases without reprocessing everything. Fourth, treat operations as first-class features. Logging, lineage, retries, alerts, dashboards, these are not optional. Ingestion runs 24/7 and teams need visibility and automation, not manual triage. And finally, use automation and AI where it truly reduces effort. Schema mapping assistance, anomaly detection, and unstructured extraction, but only on top of a governed ingestion foundation. Essentially, you simplify by turning ingestion into a metadata-driven assembly line.
Those are a lot of really great points. I'm going to dig into your answer just a little bit more. You spoke on templates and standards, and with standards and formats constantly evolving, there's always change happening. How do healthcare organizations and teams realistically keep up without re-engineering and rebuilding everything each and every time?
Yeah. See, the only realistic approach is to design assuming change is constant. Do not rebuild, reconfigure. The first principle is decoupling. Don't hardcode transformation into pipelines. That will require engineering releases for every change. Keep mappings and rules in version control templates. So updates are configuration changes, not code rewrites. Second, maintain standards aligned validation libraries. For HL7, CCDA, FIRE, X12, you want reusable rule packs that can evolve independently. That lets you support new implementation guides without destabilizing the platform. Third, use an intermediate canonical structure. If downstream systems consume a stable canonical model or stable file resources, you can absorb upstream changes without rippling impact everywhere. And finally, monitor for drift. Track message profiles, error rates, and volume patterns, detect changes early, regression test templates, so change becomes controlled, not chaotic. To summarize, decoupled transformation, version-based validation libraries, intermediate canonical structure, and drift monitoring.
Change becomes controlled, not chaotic. I like that. That's a really good point to make. And given all the things that we've been talking about, the challenges and some practical applications, how is CitiusTech approaching this problem differently? What solutions or innovations are you focusing on to help organizations address these challenges?
So the way we look at it at CitiusTech is most organizations don't need another one-off integration. They need an ingestion framework, a repeatable, configurable system for bringing in clinical and claims data at scale. That's why we built HDI, Healthcare Data Ingestion. The core idea is configuration over code. Parsing, mapping, and validation are driven by metadata, templates, and mapper files, not hard-coded logic. That makes onboarding faster and change management much easier. SDI fits into an enterprise data platform. Data lands in a raw zone. Validation and parsing are triggered. Outputs are staged for downstream consumption. The accelerator supports real-world standards, HL7, V2, CCDA, FIRE, X12. We validate first. If something fails, we capture it consistently. We route it through operational workflows. Data is passed into structured output and flattened for analytics or interop services. From there, we follow a layered model, bronze, silver, and gold. In many programs, the gold layer is FIRE. So we include a FIRE mapping engine to generate FIRE resources, normalizing terminology and preserving reference integrity so that data is usable and connected. Operations are built in, logging, audit trails, retries, reporting, alerts, and we are extending HDI with AI to accelerate schema mapping and extraction from unstructured documents. Net result, standardized ingestion, resilient pipelines, and scale without constant re-engineering.
Thank you for breaking that down, Ravi. I want to build on that a little bit more. What real-world benefits can medtechs and payers achieve using this solution, this accelerator? And also, in what ways does it improve their ability to ingest and operationalize their clinical data?
See, the benefits show up in three areas: speed, quality, and operational stability. On speed, onboarding and maintenance significantly improves. Standards-based parsers and reusable templates turn weeks of engineering into repeatable configuration work. And that accelerates time to value for all care improvement programs. On quality, since normalization happens upstream, you see fewer unit mismatches, fewer local codes leaking through, better linked data across patient encounter results and coverage. And on operational stability, since we build validation, logging, audits, alerts, retries at first-class features, so teams catch issues early and protect SLAs. For payers, this becomes a very clean data backbone. Quality programs, risk adjustment, care management, FIRE compliance, all of it without constant rebuilds. And for medtechs, it reduces integration friction and speeds insights back to care teams. And when outputs are FIRE aligned, it accelerates API enablement and interop across the ecosystem.
That's really remarkable. Yeah, this accelerator sounding like it's immediately tackling that first pain point, that first hurdle when it comes to integrating data together and being able to use it. It's a really exciting solution. We talk a lot about AI. We did also just earlier as well. So before we wrap up, Ravi, we hear a lot about how AI is transforming healthcare data operations. What role do you see AI playing in clinical data ingestion today? And also, how might that evolve in the future?
AI is already playing a practical role, but it works best when paired with strong ingestion architecture. AI will automate the edges, standards keep the core safe. One major area is extraction from unstructured data. Notes, PDFs, and narrative sections still hold a lot of clinical value. NLP and language models can extract problems, medications, labs, and social history earlier in the pipeline. That reduces manual abstraction and speeds usability. Another area is mapping and standardization. AI can propose schema mappings, summarize differences between specifications, and accelerate template creation. Humans are still validated, but the effort drops significantly. AI also improves operations, anomaly detection, drift identification, and smarter error classification. Teams can focus on the highest impact issues first. Looking ahead, we'll see more self-healing ingestion. The platform will detect change on its own, propose updates on its own, runs regression tests, and promote fixes with controls. The key point is this: AI augments ingestion architecture. Combined with a metadata-driven framework, it makes ingestion faster, smarter, and more resilient.
Ravi, thank you. This has been a really fascinating discussion. I want to thank you for breaking down the complexity behind healthcare data and also sharing how solutions, these innovations like CitiusTech's metadata-driven healthcare data ingestion accelerator, and how it's helping organizations modernize and scale their data operations. It was really fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Please stay tuned for more conversations on healthcare data and digital transformation.
The Shaping Healthcare podcast is brought to you by CitiusTech, a leader in healthcare consulting and IT services. To find out more about CitiusTech, visit CitiusTech.com. To listen to more interesting insights on healthcare technology and innovations, search and subscribe to the Shaping Healthcare podcast. Thank you for listening. If you want to share any feedback or would like to be featured in our podcast, do write to us at citiusvision@citiustech.com.